What's up, everybody? This is Ricardo Rodriguez.
And Matthew Messick.
And this is
the Profits Over Wages podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Profits Over Wages podcast, where we do weekly interviews with highly successful business owners and entrepreneurs. We discuss life, business, and entrepreneurship to bring forward the lessons learned from success and failure, and most importantly, have fun while doing it. On episode 51 of the podcast, we sit down with Cory Boatright. He has completed over $75 million in real estate acquisitions and closed over 1,000 real property transactions. He runs a nationwide education company that coaches high-achieving entrepreneurs, as well as a top-rated real estate podcast called Real Estate Investing Profits. He currently buys or wholesales 80 to 100 properties a year in the greater Oklahoma City metro area and resides there with his wife Leslie and their 2 kids. Enjoy the show.
You're doing a lot of multifamily now. How long ago did that start?
So I did my first one. Well, are you wanting to? Are we chatting right now? Or are we recording?
I mean, I already started the recording, but I guess Matt kind of just wanted to get a background, like, you know, what it is that you're working on. That way we can kind of know what to bring up. But we can get started, actually.
You want to start it or what?
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of nice to like find things like while you're going through the podcast instead of knowing everything from the beginning.
Yeah, so. Kind of like be surprised.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I didn't know you did that. Cool. Yeah. All right, go, man.
Well, like start it or we're going?
Yeah.
Okay. So Cory, I just want to really thank you for being on the podcast. I've actually been following you for a couple of years now. I know you're really big in the real estate community and just in business in general. So first of all, I want to thank you. And then you can kind of, for our audience who doesn't not familiar with you, if you can tell them who you are and what you do.
Sure, man. Thanks for having me on here. I appreciate it. It's exciting. Ricardo, Matt, meeting you on the screen here, and then Matt, I met in Denver at a multifamily event. That's pretty exciting endeavor to be more focused on 2019-20 moving on. But I am, my name is Cory Boatright. I am a wholesaler primarily in greater OKC area, which is about 1.37 MSA, 1.37 million MSA. And we pretty much focus on 2 counties, Oklahoma County, Cleveland County. And we focus on 95% wholesaling. We take a few deals down, very few, but 95% wholesaling in that company. And we'll do about 100 deals a year. Last year happened to be our biggest year, and so it's great. And then we just continue to just refine and get better and better at focusing at wholesaling. And it's a great business. It's a cash register type of business, very transactional, as you probably know. But it also is not something that's going to really build wealth over time. And that's what the multifamily part is. So right now I have, I was just looking at this on the number because we just recently closed on another transaction. I wanted to make sure I got the actual number correct here, but it's 426 units under management now with one of my companies for multifamily. It's a 128 unit and a 298 unit.
298 unit.
Yeah, 298 unit.
That's pretty much a complex.
Yeah, it's big, but it's really nice, great cash flowing properties, and focused on syndication on that. My 2 partners, Sean Terry, Corey Peterson, and Matt Sneed on this other deal as well. We had a few other people in there too, but my partners there have really done a great job of really finding great properties and really doing a great job with due diligence and finding properties that aren't these properties that have a heavy lift. These particular properties, we're looking at a 5-year type hold in multifamily, and then being able to, basically, buy something like one of our deals on University Crossing. We bought it for $5 million. We're going to turn around and sell it in 5 years for around $8 million. One of the other deals that we on Hawkeye, we bought it for $10.6 million, I believe, and then we'll turn around obviously and sell that 5 years later. For another probably around. It just depends, but maybe 14, 15 million. It just depends on where our cap rates are going to be. But multifamily is exciting because you can do a syndication, get some investors in, and you can hold on to these properties and really create this passive cash flow over time.
Is that the main reason why you got into multifamily, for the cash flow?
Yeah. So the cash flow, it's really building wealth over time. So that's
because wholesaling, you stop and it stops.
Yeah. So wholesaling, if you get, I have a team that does does a lot of the work right now, Ricardo, but it's still one of those things where at the start of the month, you have to start over again. Right. And so you have a big marketing machine going. I mean, we're sending out 50, 60,000 mail pieces, every single month, and it's just rocking and rolling with that. But, every single month it starts over again. And then you got your team, everyone's got to get paid and be happy and feel valued. And so it's great. And it's set up in a way where it runs, not on complete autopilot, but it runs pretty great without my direct involvement so much involved, because we have a great team. But it's still not something that's going to build legacy wealth over time. Yeah. Where multifamily can, where I can I have two kids, so I could actually will my apartment complex to my kids at some point, in my life. And that's exciting to be able to just build legacy wealth, and something that you start, thinking more about. It seems like a little bit later on in life, you start thinking more about the importance of that, plus the tax benefits. Really, one of the biggest reasons that I started to get super interested is in multifamily is because of the major tax advantages that you get.
Right.
And most of my friends that own 1,000 units or so, they don't pay much in taxes, and the power that comes from forced appreciation, and the power that comes from doing these segregations and doing these cost segs, what happens is you can take all of this expense, or all of this money that you would basically have about 27 and a half years of loss of words here, but depreciation. So depreciation. So whenever you have the 27 have to depreciate, well, you in a cost seg, you can do this. You can take all of this depreciation and shove it down into year one if you wanted to, but you can shove it over to year two, and you can take, now you have 100 refrigerators, not just one. You have 100 carpets, not just one. You have 100 cabinets, not just one. And you do this cost seg, and this is significant. Very significant, because you could essentially get a K1 at the end of the year and be negative, and still have a huge tax advantage, which is amazing. It's
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. And plus, with the new things coming up with opportunity zones right now, you add that on top of finding a potential multifamily deal, an opportunity zone. If you find a good development or an opportunity zone fund, it's a little bit of a wild west. But you're talking about now deferring taxes essentially for forever.
Yeah.
So it's just some huge advantages for multifamily that is super exciting. And so I do the multifamily side. That's where I'm putting more emphasis now for that kind of legacy wealth, and then coaching and consulting. So mostly that is in wholesaling. I work with usually no more than 15 people at a time. I'm not a cheap date. I always joke around with that, because I deal with people that I know from an application basis, if we're a good fit or not, and what they want to achieve. And essentially we just duplicate what's working already here in Oklahoma. I don't have to recreate the wheel. And because of that, we've had some really great success with the students I work for, or with the students that I've had a chance to work with.
Are all the 100 deals in Oklahoma?
Yeah, every single one of the deals is in Oklahoma. Yep.
Okay.
Now, and then you work with wholesalers across the country?
I do. Yeah. So we get from the social media where you said that you followed me for a while on Facebook and whatnot. So the social media is super powerful, as you know. You get people that will just direct message you, and for some way they'll have some lead somewhere in Oklahoma City, and they'll be like, hey, I got this deal. Can you do anything with it? If you can, cut me in on something or whatever. So we get stuff like that a lot. I mean, we get people that just like send in random deals like that. And then on the other side of it too, I'm a part of a pretty big mastermind group that my best friend, Jason Medley, started over 8 years ago. And I kind of helped him start it in the beginning, getting some people to come to it. And he's ran with it and focused everything on really blowing that mastermind up. And it's an incredible mastermind. It has some of the top investors in the country in the mastermind. First, you have to do at least 50 deals to even be in the mastermind. You have to do at least 50 deals a year. And then a lot of people that come in, they do 100, 200 deals a year.
What's the name of the mastermind?
It's called the Collective Genius.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great mastermind.
Now, let's take it back because all these sounds awesome, but it's like for somebody that's just starting, it's like I'm not even close to buying a 300-unit building,
Yeah. So for multifamily, I get it. Yeah.
So you guys started in wholesaling. Was that like how you got your introduction to real estate?
Yeah. So that's a longer story, but the short version is I first started out basically being a bird dog. And once I realized what the person was doing when he took the leads and actually got the deals, I found out that he was actually wholesaling at the time. So I wanted to learn how to be a wholesaler. And I went on eBay and was like looking at every single, like how to invest in real estate and all this stuff. And like, I blew up eBay this was over 15 years ago. And I was just like wanted to learn like, what to do and how to invest in real estate. So I went through the whole, old Ron LeGrand courses, Carlton Sheets courses. And I went through all the greats, and I learned some information on there, but you really don't learn. You learn more whenever you actually get out there and do it. Yeah. So I would learn something, I'd actually go and do it, and then and get some information that way. I always call it data entry now. Whenever you're learning, it's all data entry. So once you're doing that, then you start realizing like, okay, the guy that you're wholesaling. So I learned how to wholesale. I was making like maybe $3,000 to $5,000 a deal back then, and this was just learning just kind of how to sign the contract. But then I realized this guy was taking these deals. The guys that were buying the wholesale deals, they were fixing and flipping them. They were rehabbing them and fixing them up. Yeah. And supposedly they're making $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 or more. So I wanted to learn how to do that. Like, how do I become a rehabber? So I created this little like skeleton rehab crew, and I did my best to run this for almost 2 years, and it was a disaster. It was so bad. It was so
tough business, man. Bad.
I couldn't find a GC that was sober on the weekend. I had people working for me stealing stuff, and they were working for me.
Dude, we had guys we would show up maybe like around 4 or 5, and they were coming into the job site with a 24-pack.
Yeah, man. I had Indians that we could get where these legitimate. Oklahoma, we had legitimate Indians. Like I'm a Cherokee Indian, and so I can say this. So Cherokee Indians will drink mouthwash, and they'll get drunk off mouthwash, right?
What?
So I know it sounds crazy, but there's high content of alcohol. So they were drinking mouthwash in the back of one of our property, and we're trying to work, and these Indians are just like drinking alcohol, drinking these mouthwash. And it was just one thing after another of things that were happening every time I got a property and wanted to start fixing it up. And it was just a disaster. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the whole process of like taking something that was quote ugly and making it pretty. I didn't even enjoy the process. All I wanted was, to just find a deal and then have somebody else take it from there. And I just enjoyed the process of finding the deal. And so I learned basically after 2 years, that's not what I wanted to do. And it's really weird, man. I'm in the process of doing these rehabs. I'm thinking, man, I need to get away from this. And what am I going to do? And I'm sending out, even back then, like some letters, not near as many what I'm doing now, but I was sending out, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 letters. And I sent out a letter, and a lady calls in, and she's like, "Hey, I got your letter in the mail. You're interested in buying my house. I'd like for you to come out and take a look at it. I was like, fine, great. What's the house worth? Or what do you owe in the house? And it was like $130,000. I'm just giving, it's like $130,000. And then, so I was like, okay, great. What do you owe on the property? And, or what do you owe on the property? 130. What do you think the house is worth? About 130, 135 or whatever. So there's no equity there.
Yeah.
And
Just
I said, well, I'm an investor, so I need to buy a property at a discount for cash. So I don't think that this is, I can refer you to somebody. She goes, no. The bank said to come out and make an offer on it. And I was like, the bank said that. She's like, yeah, I'm behind on payments, and the bank said I need somebody to come out and make an offer. So this is the first time, but mind you, this is the first time I've ever even heard of this idea of the bank said to come out and make an offer on the property. And I would say this somewhere between like 2005 and 2007, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. And which is, the start of pretty much the recession in 2005. Yeah. So I said, okay, I'll come out, take a look at it. So I went out and take a look at the property. And I made an offer on the property that I thought was just no way going to get accepted. I mean, it was just like some way lower number. I think it's $50,000 or $60,000 lower than what she owed on it. And never expected to hear from this lady again. Little sweet old lady, but I just never expect to hear from her again. The next day, I get a call from this lady, and she's like, "Hey, I'm calling you back because you made an offer on the property, and the bank wants to talk to you on the other line. Can I tie us in?" I was like, "Okay, yeah, go ahead and tie us in." And the lady comes on, and she's like, "Yeah, this is I forgot what SunTrust or whoever it was," and I was on there, and she was like, "Yeah, the investor's on the other end of the line. You can go ahead and talk." And the lady said, I don't know if she slipped or what. Guys, I don't know what was in her mind, but it changed everything, what she said. She goes, "Can I speak?" So the lady, I guess she already told her my name was Cory. And the lady goes, "Can I speak with Cory in loss mitigation?" And I just remember sitting there for a second thinking, this is Cory in loss mitigation. And all of a sudden, these wheels started turning that I wonder how many other properties are out there that people owe more money than house is worth, but the bank is willing to accept less to get it off their books.
Yeah. And
this is the first time, of course, I'm talking about as a short sale. It's the first time I'm getting to know about this idea of short sales. And the late, I was like, "This is Cory loss mitigation." She said, "Yeah, we're looking at your offer, blah, blah, blah. We can't accept your offer." And I was like, "Well, shocker." But they're like, "If you can add a couple $1,000s, then we'll go ahead and accept it." And my mind was blown, man. I was like, I did my very best to like act, not act surprised, and I was like, "Well, let me think about it. Let me, and I got off that phone call just like shaking because I was like, I just figured out this piece to this magical puzzle that no one knows about. And I just figured this whole thing out, and all these things just started just like turning in my head of how can I find more people like this, and what banks are more likely to short sell, and what is the price? Like, what if I could take another 10,000 off of it? So that was a life-changing time. And so from that point on, I shut down my rehabbing business like 6 months. I did it for like 6 more, and I didn't do any more rehabs. I didn't do any more wholesaling. I started focusing on short sales, and I started getting really, really good at them. No one else was really doing them. So I started really getting good at them. I started getting success on getting the lenders to accept my offers. And then I started figuring out what percentage rates that they were accepting offers. And then I started to understand the BPO process. And it became a science. It was like a mad scientist on short sales. That's and awesome. People were taking me to lunch, and I didn't have to pay for lunch I promised for like 6 months. People were taking me to dinner, to lunch, trying to get me to teach them everything I knew. I was doing these little mini events and like a Denny's, and then it got to another like 50-person event, another 100-person event. And then finally, I was answering all this stuff online, a place called Easy HUD. I don't know if you remember, it's back in the day. It's called Easy HUD. Chris Daigle used to run it. And it was a forum for basically people asking questions, and I just like to help anyway. So I was like just answering a bunch of questions on short sales, and no one else was really answering them. And I became this authority on Easy HUD. So the guy that owned the site, Chris Dable, reached out to me one day and was like, "Hey, would you like to be a moderator on my site? You've answered like over 1,200 posts,
Wow.
and you're starting to get a name, And so I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I became a moderator. And then Chris was like, "Have you ever even thought about making a course?" I was like, "A course? I mean, like a course I bought before?" He's like, "Yeah, you could actually make a course." So I didn't really want to get into the info guru space. I really didn't. I was like the reluctant. I didn't want to do that. But he said, "Man, if you did this, I have such a big following on this Easy Hub. We can do a webinar and we could probably sell, $50,000 in 2 hours if you did this." And I was like,
I'm in.
"Whoa," and he was like, "You just need to make a course." So I created a course. It was called Short Sale Fundamentals. And to this day, to my knowledge, it was one of the foundational courses that a lot of people learned short sales from. I sold over 2,500 of those courses over the next, it's 2007, probably over the next 5-6 years.
Nice.
And five over the next 4 to 5 years. And I got to a place where we were doing so many short sales. I started a loss mitigation company. So we were doing short sales for other quote investors and getting paid a percentage as a approval fee. I hired a senior loss mitigator that used to work at a bank. I hired her to work for me. So now she used to protect the bank for short sales from investors. Now she was working for my loss mitigation company, and we had the awesome advantage. And then I met one of my ex-business partner now, but my partner, and he said, "Hey man, you know what? You've got all this marketing, you're selling these courses, but you don't have a software. And why don't we create a software?" And I was like, "Yeah, software. That's what we need. We need a software." So we created this software called Short Sale Builder. And over the next 2 years, that software grew to almost 5,000 users. We charged $97 a month on that software, and we probably had about 3,500 to 3,700 paying users over that period of the 2 years that we really ran, because we gave a lot of them away for influencers and stuff like that. Wow. And we had like a beta test of 100 in the beginning. And so we had it was a substantial business, man. I mean, it really was a substantial business. You go from making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month to $300,000 a month reoccurring that starts coming in. It's a pretty big, it was a game changer. So, and then I started to go speak at stages. People asked me to come speak at their stage, and then we'd split 50-50 on the JV stuff. And that's where I met a lot of all these guys like Dan Merrill and all these people now that they got their own big things going and stuff. But when I met them, they weren't doing a lot of stuff. Greg Clements, still a good friend of mine. He didn't have the whole really big Real Flow software, which he has now, big company. Josh Cantwell and him were working together at that time. I mean, there was just a lot of Tim Mai was kind of the first guy that came out with a big splash online. Preston Neely with Freedom Soft, and so. But we came out with this software, and it rocked until it didn't. Until it didn't. So I had a big falling out whenever short sales started to get well. In my personal life, I went through some pretty big personal turmoil with a relationship, and that didn't help. On top of my business partner and I got into a massive legal altercation. And long story longer is I ended up basically selling out my piece of the company to one of our competitors, and shut down the loss mitigation company, and was going to Hawaii to basically kind of get reset and get my head straight on what was the next steps. And ended up at the end of 2012, November 2012, I ended up going to Hawaii and getting a phone call that I had thyroid cancer.
Oh, wow.
To top it off.
Yeah, in Hawaii.
All that stuff happened at the same time?
Yeah, it was like that was like all the stuff that's going on. I just finished my big legal stuff, and I was going to Hawaii to kind of get reset. And I figured I'm we rent out my buddy John Cochran. If you ever heard of John, he has System Saturday and Buyers on Fire. We were going to Hawaii to hang out, and do a bunch of stuff. And yeah, I got a call. Basically, John said, "Hey, you got a lump on your throat." I went in to the doctor to have it checked out. I didn't think anything of it, and sure enough, I got a call after I had it checked out, and they said, "You have." It's positive for thyroid carcinoma cancer, and wow. it absolutely rocked my world. It changed everything. Everything at that moment stopped, and I had to cancel all of my vacation, which we had to pay for in advance, so we didn't get all that stuff back. So I was going to spend like 3 months in Hawaii. It was going to be just an epic vacation, and had to cancel it. Felt horrible about that. Flew home, did everything I can to learn about this thyroid carcinoma cancer, and then ended up having the surgery at the end of December of 2012, right before Christmas, on Christmas Eve, and it was a fantastic, amazing surgery. So that was, praise God on that, but it was rough, man. I had to sign an agreement that said I could die. I had to be okay with that. If I hadn't gotten stuff in order, I should do that, because there's like a 4% chance I could die, or 6% chance I had my vocal cords paralyzed. And it was tough, man. It was a really mentally a heavy thing on me. During that time, I created this thing called the Grateful Project, which is what you, if you ever heard about it or seen it, I wear these bracelets. And essentially it was every day I had to show, I just like wanted to be positive. I was like down for a while on like what was going to happen to me. No one in my family's ever had cancer. Like I was feeling like my mortality was being like majorly questioned, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I was like, I started to start every day of like, day one, today I'm grateful for the breath of my lungs. Day two, today I'm grateful for my hair. Day three, I'm grateful for my voice. Day four, I just started to have a reason to be grateful. Crazy thing is, man, that kind of went viral with a couple of guys that caught wind of it. And today we have over 15,000 members in the Grateful Project, and people start their own Grateful Project. So they're on day, 1,300, day 500 or whatever. And I think today is day 1,697, I think. So I've been doing it every day. When I started that process, I started doing it every single day. And it was amazing because people have really got blessed by just being a reminder of gratitude, just the power of gratitude. Not only that, but I had people that were so empathetic of my situation that they started sending me all kinds of gifts and like all kinds of love and prayers and all this stuff. And so it was amazing how many people are like touched with cancer, like how many people have been affected by cancer. And so all that happened. I was no longer doing short sales anymore. I was no longer, so I thought, okay, what am I going to do after I'm going through this? So basically in 2013 was all about kind of getting healthy and adjusting with this, surgery and all the stuff that was happening, and this new lifestyle, the diet lifestyle, all the stuff changes. And then so I had to go, all right, what am I going to do in real estate? Because I still want to stay in real estate. And I said, well, what's the low hanging fruit? And that was wholesaling. The wholesaling is always the lowest hanging fruit, because essentially you are just, you're getting a great deal on a property, and then you're assigning your contract, or you're selling your paper to some other cash buyer. And it's a fast way to get paid. It is a super fast way to get paid. So I said, man, why don't I just focus on that and just get really good at that, because it's not it's not a lot of brain damage. I've done it before. So that's what started happening, man. At really 2013 was all kind of recovery. And then 2014 on was just straight on full wholesaling focus, and just getting better and better and better and focusing at wholesaling. And today we have a great team. We have acquisition managers now. We have disposition side. We've got lead managers now. We've got great automation systems, which I'm always a big fan of. We got fantastic marketing and data scientists that give us data. And we send out a ton of direct mail, and we do pay-per-click, and we do, all kinds of stuff now just to basically dominate the market. And it's a lot of fun,
How did you get it going in the beginning? Because obviously you don't have all the systems set up, but it's like, how do you get such a big operation going? Like, how do you get that vision, and how do you start putting all those systems together?
Yeah. So I had some really great friends in my life, and still to this day I do. I have great relationship with these people, but one of my partners, Sean Terry, has been doing wholesaling, for a while. And Sean and I always traded back and forth tips and stuff like that on what was working, what wasn't. Obviously, in 2008, that mastermind I told you about for Collective Genius started. Or I'm sorry, in 2010. In 2010, the mastermind started, and so I got a chance to learn, what's the best practices and really just apply things that I think would be the best that I could possibly do. So if anybody's thinking about the mastermind aspect of it, it's one of the most powerful things that you can do, to be around people that are either at a place that you want to be, or they've messed up and they've failed all these different ways, and they can share with you all these different lessons of what didn't work. And they can tell you, right? So a mastermind concept is, you're in a room with 20, 30 people. One person gets up and says, hi, I'm Cory. I work at, in this market, and here's how many deals we did last year. And here's what's working, and here's what's not. Here's what I need help with. And you have all these other people that maybe they're not in your same state, but they give you all this different direction all these different ideas of things that you can do to fix that challenge that you have. And it might just be, hey, call Sue. She knows she'll take care of you like that. No big deal. Or it might be, hey, I've got this whole document that you need. I've already spent the money with the attorney on it, man. You don't even worry about it. I'll just forward it to you. It might be something like that. So it's just the power of a group, the power of a collective, power of the mastermind is incredible, And so that was a big, massive help of, like you said, getting the system set up and I didn't have to go and figure out and recreate the wheel. Right. I could just see other people that were doing certain things. I could take a piece over here, So yeah, Oklahoma is not like California, right? But I could take a piece of what's working in California and apply it to my market in Oklahoma. And maybe your direct mail is only getting you 0.5% over here. Well, maybe you're not adding the certain elements that I know from direct response marketing that I could add over here and split test and see if we get a better result. Maybe your data list that you're using, that I can get a better data list, So it's just basically the best practices, and you start building it up, man.
I guess to kind of zero in on that, like for somebody that's interested in wholesaling, maybe they're either they have a business right now, they're probably doing 10 deals a year. How do they get into like that next level of maybe doing 100? Like what are some, like you were talking about lists, you were also talking about what's working in like direct marketing to get a little more response than 0.5%.
Yeah. So most people, when they get involved, let's say with direct mail, they treat it like a hobby, not a business.
Yeah. So
if you're going to get involved with really anything, but specifically direct mail, you have to understand that your better leads are going to start coming in on the 5th and 7th mailer to the same list, to the same exact list. And so if you quit because you mailed 2 or 3 or 4 times and no one's really coming, the response is low, then you're probably missing out on a big chunk of these leads that will be coming in on that 5th, 6th, and 7th mailer. So most people they treat it like a hobby. Oh, I mailed one time, that stuff doesn't work, they stop. Right? That's a rookie mistake. For anybody that's done direct mail will agree. And
so is it more like they just, because obviously these people are in distress, right? Well, yes. At least most of them.
Yes.
Is it because they just postpone things and they almost get to the point where they have to do something, so they go with the person that has sent them 7 letters instead of like 3? or two.
Right.
It's like the one dude that's like, this dude just keeps sending me letters. I'm just going to call him.
You got top of mind. So time and circumstances changes everything. You know, a month ago, they saw your letter. They're not doing anything with it, but maybe they kept it. Maybe I call these things insurance mail pieces, right? Because they keep them there like just in case.
Yeah.
You know, I could call them and I know I can get an offer. And the more direct you are on call us now to get your offer within 3 days or cash offer in 72 hours or what, the more that you can encourage speed, right? Speed is huge for direct response marketing, right? Scarcity is even bigger than speed. Call before Friday at 5 p.m. and receive $1,000 extra, you know, or something that encourages people with a deadline. A deadline will get people to take action because now you're drawing a line in the sand that says, if you don't get in touch with me by think about this, anything that you've got in the mail that maybe you probably weren't real excited about it, but it had a deadline. And that because it had a deadline, then you probably felt like, man, if I didn't call, I'm going to miss out.
Right. Like when you get a coupon, you get a coupon or something. It's like, hey, you got to use this before.
A Groupon, a coupon. Yeah, anything. Yeah. So it's like, man, I got to call them or I'm going to miss out. And no one likes to miss out. And so scarcity is incredibly important. There's a book called by Robert Cialdini called Influence. Your listeners may, if they're interested in this stuff, and I mean, we can go deep into this stuff. One of the best copywriters and for direct response is Dan Kennedy. Dan Kennedy has just been at the business for so long. He has a bunch of no BS books. If you go to Amazon, type in Dan Kennedy no BS, you'll see just tons and tons of his books. And no BS time management books, no BS copywriting books, so he has all these different books. And direct response marketing is one of the ways that you get people to take action now. We're not Pepsi, we're not Coca-Cola, we're not, you know, we're not one of these big retailers, right, that have literally hundreds of millions of dollars to spend in marketing, in big marketing. And because of that, we have an advantage. And the advantage is we can get people where they are to take action now. Those other companies, they're in it. They're looking at it for that long term, right? You know, 10 years, 20 years down the road, they want you to know who Coca-Cola is. And that's fantastic. It is.
Right.
But until you have enough money to spend like that, you have to think smaller. In order to grow, you have to let go. I said this the other day. It's true. You have to let go of these ideas of what people planted in your head, typically on marketing and all this stuff. That you have to go smaller in the beginning. You have to think about what you can niche in, what you can dominate in, where you can just really knock somebody between the eyes on your message for your copywriting message, and just grab them by the neck and say, "Call me," you know, because you're wanting that person to call you. And that's 50% of the sale right there, because they could have called anybody else, but they're calling you. And now when they're calling you, you have an opportunity to convert it, you know, and that conversion process is obviously, you know, there's a science to that too. There's a science to all this. There's a science to the flow of when deals come in, when people call in.
Cory, let me ask you, how many different marketing strategies are you doing? And what would you say are like the top three? Like, is direct mail like the best conversion?
Yeah. So the highest converting type of marketing for us right now is direct mail. It is the highest response, highest converting for us.
And how many different campaigns you got going on?
So we've got a data scientist that gives us about 30,000 leads every single that we send out every single month, just from a data scientist. Those are people that have the high likelihood of selling a property that meets our cash buy criteria, which means that we typically buy properties between 40 and 60 cents on the dollar. And most of our properties that in Oklahoma that we are focusing on, most of them are under $150,000. And I would say even 50% of them are under $50,000. So for us in our market, that's kind of what the numbers look like. The pay-per-click is another, basically almost a 2-to-1. We'd like to get it to 3-to-1, but about a 2-to-1 on pay-per-click. So if we spend $5,000, a month on pay-per-click, we can expect to get 2 deals out of that, and that's kind of what I mean by that 2-to-1. So, and sometimes it is rare, but sometimes we can get 3-to-1. And I'm talking about not just leads; I'm talking about actual contracts that close. And then
what's the
you
conversion ratio of that? If you get 2 deals, how many leads are you getting?
So about 4. I can look at that, but it's about 40.
Okay,
about 40.
So 20-to-1. It's typically a deal.
Yeah. Yep. On pay-per-click. On direct mail, it's closer to like 45, 50. Because we're getting about 400 leads a month coming in. So about 100 leads. I'm sorry, not leads. About 415 to 450 phone calls coming in a month. So if you want to break that down, it's about 110 a week. Well, out of that, you're going to get people that do not have a house for sale. They're just calling to say, take me off your list, or they're calling to bitch and moan because they want you to stop sending direct mail to them, essentially.
Yeah.
So take them off the list, or they don't have a house for sale. That number is about 23 to 30%. 23 to 30% of those people that call in. So call it 30 of the 110 leads are going to be people that don't even have a house for sale. So now you're down to really, 70, 80 actual people that do have a house for sale. And then from there, you have to look at how many appointments that you're going to have to go on to get a contract. So, if you look at, that's when you start breaking down your KPIs, how many calls equal actually how many leads equal how many appointments equal how many contracts. And so for us right now on those numbers, we're averaging somewhere between 8 and 9 deals every month. 8 and 9 deals every month that we close consecutively. Our goal is to hit 12 and 15. 15 is we really want to hit 15 for 2019.
But you're sending out 30,000 letters a month, right?
We're sending out over that. We're actually sending out between 50 and 60,000 mail pieces.
Holy shit.
Just on the 30,000 is just on the data scientist list. That's just on that data scientist list.
What percent of your marketing budget is your marketing budget to gross sales ratio?
So right now we were a little higher, so about $160 to $170,000 on just direct mail was last year's expense.
Well, I guess for every dollar let's go across the board. So for all of your marketing, for every dollar you spend in marketing, what's the return on that?
So the cost per deal. Are you talking about cost per deal?
Yeah.
So our cost per deal is between, it fluctuates between $1,900 and $2,100.
Okay.
That's what our cost per deal is.
That's what you spend on the marketing, and then what's the average deal size?
So our average return is $12,100. Our gross profit is $12,100.
Nice.
Are you saying that, so say you get 14,000, 2,000 of that is what you spend on the marketing, and then you're netting 12,000?
$12,100. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's about, I guess I can't do the math. I was going to say 10%, but
and there's a lot more that goes in.
What's 1/6? That's like 16%.
If you're getting, so it's under 20%. But if you want to break that down, I like to break it down into individual marketing channels, right? Yeah. So, we'll spend over 60 to 70,000 on pay-per-click, right? And then we'll spend, we got niche lists for letters because the 30,000 is really just postcards. So our letters that go out are more expensive, but there's not as many of them. So it's a smaller amount. So
I guess the point I was trying to make was like a lot of people, get into wholesaling and then they're like, okay, well, they think, I can do wholesaling with no money. It's like, well, no, you need money for marketing. And they're like, well, how much is it going to cost? A lot of people go ahead and they do one direct mail campaign for 1 month. They go, I spent $1,000. I got a few calls. Nothing turned out to anything, and they quit. Where it's like you got to be committed for 6 months to be able to have a successful direct mail campaign. But then how much does that cost? You got to put money into the marketing to make it back on the back end, but it's profitable at whatever, say said 5 times.
It takes time.
But it's like, people, they try it and they don't stick with it long enough. They're like, I spent the money. I don't want to spend more on it because I haven't got a return yet. Because it's a little bit longer term to get started off the bat.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's why I was curious about your KPI.
Yeah, a lot of people are on the marketing. I mean, I get a chance to see all kinds of different percentages for returns. And so a 4-to-1, like if I give you, if I put in $1 and I get 4 back, right? I mean, that's a pretty good response for direct mail. We've actually gotten higher from kind of different strategies that have really been great to get properties sold and get them sold at a higher price. And that makes all the difference in the world on your negotiation strategies on getting the very best deal for the property. And then 2, turning around and selling the property. Not only that, but turning around and selling the property in the same month. So, those things, remember, you're dealing with people that are cash buyers, right? Yeah. They're cash buyers. And so, once you figure out, if you were on the other side, if you're selling to a fix and flipper or a buy and holder, you already understand where they need to be to go to the bank and get their rehab money and how much money the bank's going to lend them and all that. So you have a new conversation because you know on the other side what that's like. That gives you an advantage. A lot of these guys that come in, they want to have 20, 30% higher of equity, in deals. And so knowing that it makes all the difference in the world when you're negotiating on the acquisition side.
Oh yeah.
How did you get into coaching and consulting?
Yeah, no, I've been doing that for a while since the short sale days. Whenever I started doing short sales, that started happening. More people just started paying me to teach them on short sales. And then these days I just do it on wholesaling, and really some actually I'm talking to working with some people now and just on setting up a business and being entrepreneurial and just marketing in general, but not necessarily wholesale. A lot of my students are wholesalers, and they want to create these bigger businesses. So I got involved more heavily whenever I started to put more of the focus on wholesaling. And in the beginning, I was just kind of doing 1 hour at a time kind of deal. And then over time, I started to create kind of different structures for it. And it's really, I tell you, don't get involved with wholesale or don't get involved with consulting or coaching if you don't care about your student. So you have to, if you don't care about if you're just looking for a payday, then just don't even mess with it, because you're going to be essentially a therapist, for people, and you're going to tell them what to do, but it isn't going to be from you not listening where they are and what's going on and what that process is. And so for myself and my personality, that fits me really well from different things I went through in my own life. And so I've had counseling, I've had all this other stuff in my life. And so I've been able to really look at the whole consulting and coaching aspect as a way to inspire people and to make impacts in their lives. Right. And to me, that's super gratifying.
I bet.
But I would not recommend it if you don't have patience, which a lot of entrepreneurs don't. I wouldn't do it if you're just looking for a payday. You don't care about the results. So, you don't care because it does take a lot of empathy and it takes a lot of patience.
Because you're breaking through people's mindsets, right? And it's not so much about the knowledge and the information. Like people can get that anywhere, but you're helping them get through the mindset.
Accountability too, Matt, accountability is huge for coaching. Mindset is, it's pretty much everything, but you have to be able to have the accountability when someone says you need to do this and they come back and they haven't done it, right? Then most people are like, oh, it's okay, be fine. Well, as a coach, you can't do that.
How do you stay away from borderline micromanaging them and not like, you know what I mean? Like there's almost like you don't want to just be too impose too much where they feel like they're being micromanaged, but like keeping them accountable enough that pushes them to do it. I feel like there's a fine line there.
Right. So a big part of that is taking care of from the very beginning positioning that you have with the student. And that's basically you saying, listen, when we're working together, then here's how this is going to go. Here's how the structure is. And you lay it out that, I'm not going to let you get away with not getting stuff done. I'm not just going to be passive about it. Are you okay with that? Right. And then you're telling me in the beginning, and I'm getting that permission from you that if you're going to be coachable, if you're going to be someone that's going to take advice and you're actually going to take instruction, are you going to be able to have someone that shows that results matter to you? Because if the results don't matter, then you're just going to write a check to feel good about yourself. And quite frankly, I don't need your check. I'll take your check if you're someone that and we tend to, whenever we pay attention. That it is, think about it. The guy that is buying a Camry and making a payment for $300 a month or leasing a Rolls Royce for $3,500 a month, right? The guy that is leasing the Rolls Royce is much more willing to get after it and do what it takes to make that payment versus the guy that makes a payment for $300 on the Camry and, it's not really pressuring him that much. He could skip a McDonald's or whatever and that, and still be able to do it. But if you don't have something in front of you that challenges you and when you pay attention, right? And so that's one of the reasons of why consulting and coaching has a price tag to it, because you tend to actually want to get a lot out of your investment, and it also has to do with researching the coach, researching who you're going to work with. You're not the right fit for everyone. You're not. It isn't like there's one size fits all, Ricardo, on a coach. It's just not that way. Whenever you apply, it's an application only, and you get on the phone and you ask questions and you say, I don't know if I can help you or not. Let's see if I can. I read your application and I want to ask you some questions. And sometimes you can hear it in people's voice. They're just not ready. They're going to be, they're just not ready. And other times you can just hear it in their voice that they are ready. They're like, man, I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. I am at my wit's end. Something has to change. This is all I got left. I'm going all in. You tell me what to do and I'll do it. And,
So you've been you did short sales for a long time, and then you did coaching and consulting, and then you started wholesaling in 2013. And then did you just recently get into multifamily, or when did that start?
Yeah, so multifamily, I did my first multifamily deal in OKC where I found the deal and I found the guys and put them together and got a fee essentially as a broker. I didn't even really know what I was doing. But it was about a $3 million deal, and I walked away, I think, with a check around $50,000, $60,000 for kind of putting the two together. And that was a pretty cool experience, but I didn't have any equity in that deal, and I didn't know anything really about the process. But it did make me a little bit more curious about what it looks like to actually take a deal down, be a part of the equity side, sponsor sides of a deal. And So Sean Terry, my partner, just happened to be doing. Sean Terry has a company called Flip to Freedom. He's been around for a long time. Has a great podcast as well, and he runs a mastermind with Kent Clothier called Boardroom, I believe. And he was just so happened to be at a place where he was like, "Man, I'm really wanting to get involved with multifamily, and I want to own 5,000 units." And we started having these conversations, and I told him, man, me too. I'm at a place where I really want to learn more about this too. So we both kind of got more excited about the concept of, doing more multifamily around the same time. And so we started reading these books. There's people that we read. There's a guy named Michael Blanc that I'm sure Ricardo, Matt, he was there at a Adam Adams event. And there's Dave Lindahl. There's a bunch of other guys that have went down this path, Scott Scheel. And we just started to kind of reach out and look at different resources and holding each other accountable. Sean and I were holding each other accountable. It's like, man, let's schedule 1 hour a week for the next 3 months and really just come together, all our resources to learn, what we can do with what we can do with multifamily. And lo and behold, I found a deal, and Sean's in Phoenix. I found a deal, and it just so happened to be a pretty smoking deal in Phoenix. And
how big?
It was a little over 100. I want to say it's about 100. Believe it or not, there's when this story that goes with this. I'm actually not allowed to talk about the details from a thing we had to sign, but it was over 100 units, so I can say that it was over 100 units, and it was in Phoenix, and we found this deal. I mean, Sean's there obviously, so it was great for him. He goes, finds the owner of the property, and comes to find out that the original owner of the property was just incarcerated. And so the another family member, I really can't go into the details of all this, but another family member was managing this deal. And so Sean and I had this great idea that we're going to flip, since we're wholesalers, we're going to flip an apartment. And we did. We ended up flipping this apartment, but it didn't come without some serious brain damage and potentially being sued. But it all worked out at the end, and we ended up, making a pretty big payday on it. But we kind of told ourselves we're not going to flip stuff anymore. We're going to actually buy stuff and take it down and be a part of a syndication and actually get equity and hold on to the deal.
Build the legacy. Yeah,
the legacy wealth. So then one of my friends I've known for a long time, it happens, Sean known him for a long time too, because he lives in Arizona, Cory Peterson. Cory Peterson was also part of our mastermind group, Collective Genius, and his wife, Shelly Peterson, actually from Oklahoma, Norman, Oklahoma. So he was doing, multifamily for years and years. He started completely focusing on it for the last 5-6 years. And we just started to have a conversation with Cory. He's like, man, why don't you come out to an event I'm going to put on? And then it was like his first boardroom. He called it boardroom too, a Kahuna boardroom. And so Sean and I went to this and really just got excited about learning more and more of the underwriting process and more about the multifamily stuff. And to Sean's credit, Sean was already back whenever the recession hit. Sean was in a land deal for like $40 million, and he had 100 unit deals that he dealt with, before. So it wasn't his first rodeo, but he kind of got away from it whenever the big recession hit, because he lost so much money during that deal. So multifamily, it's got more zeros to it. So a reason a lot of people aren't messing with multifamily as much, because they're scared, and rightly so. They have fear because they don't know what to do. Well, just because you don't know what to do doesn't mean you can't learn how to do it. right? So you just got to go in there and not let the zeros intimidate you. And you got to learn, just like whenever you did your first wholesale deal, right? That was intimidating. I mean, who in the world would give us their property for 40, 60 cents on the dollar when they could just go to an agent and just list it? You know, they're going to look at me like I'm dumb, and they're going to laugh me out. I mean, they're going to kick me out of their house. I mean, every single thing you can think of, right? Like, can you imagine when you did your first deal, like you have this mindset of like, nobody in their right mind's going to do it.
I mean, we made up our own contract. It was the worst contract we could have ever made.
And that's the other thing too.
It didn't even have a closing date, dude.
Yeah,
6 months to flip and you do 4 months.
The worst thing that you could think of, like you do everything wrong. Like you tell the person, like, you know, I'm not going to buy this. I'm just going to find somebody to buy. I'm like, you say everything wrong, and lo and behold, just because you are out there doing it, someone signs an agreement.
Yeah.
Someone signs an agreement, and all of a sudden your belief goes here, you know, because it's like, this is possible now. But before, you know, you're right here because you're like, no, you're looking at everything else, and you're giving yourself all these reasons, and you're defeating yourself before you even taking a shot, right? You're telling yourself you're going to miss before you even taking a shot. And I just think that's a really lame and defeating type of mentality that's not going to serve you, your family, your business.
Because you haven't even given it a shot. Like,
you haven't given it a shot, man. So I wanted to learn everything I could about multifamily. So I just started listening to every single podcast. I just got on there. I started typing in multifamily apartments, started listening to apartment. You know, Sean and we started to have accountability with one another. I went and we went to, you know, talk to Michael Blanc and really went through all his stuff, learned about the underwriting, watched tons of YouTube videos on underwriting, you know, went in. And so you have to put in the time to learn stuff, right? But it wasn't until we started to work with Cory Peterson that really then it became a whole new reality, because Cory had a deal and he was like, listen, I need you guys just to raise some money and then we'll buy this deal together. Yeah. And that whole concept of syndication kind of changed everything, you know, because once you understand syndication, you realize, and quite frankly, I'll just tell you, you know, Cory Peterson I think he did over $28 million in 2018 in deals. And I don't think he has much money of his own into any of these deals.
All syndicating.
He does all syndication, but yet he just cashed out on a deal. And he had a significant amount of money from the forced appreciation. And I want to say they bought it for $3 or $4 million, and then he sold it for $8 million. And it was this kind of 5-year deal. And when he sold it, he paid all the investors back, and then he walked away with $2 or $3 million of his own money.
Nice.
And it wasn't having any money in it? Any of his money in the deal, right? And so that's. Think about that. Think about if you just got today a $2 million payday, and you got $2 million liquid, went to your bank account, right? Now what are you going to do with the money?
Do it again.
You're going to go figure out a way to do it again. And because the first one, you didn't even have any of your own money in, right? And so now you've got money that you can put into deals. Now it just gives you even more equity. You know, so you want to throw 300,000 over here? Awesome. What can I get? What's my percentage equity I can get for 300,000? You want to throw 250 over here? Awesome. What can I negotiate to get for my equity for 250,000? It becomes a negotiation game. Yeah. But the cool thing about multifamily, that there's a wide open gap that I'm super excited about, is not many people are really understanding the opportunity with direct response marketing for multifamily off-market properties that are owner-operator.
Right. Not everybody gets them out of the LoopNet and all that stuff.
Yeah. You mean sending direct mail to mom and pop shop?
I'm talking about they get this nice professional, high gloss, you know, super intimidating looking mail piece, right? That looks like a billionaire created it or something.
Or
and
Marcus
and they wonder why they're not getting calls, right? Because they feel like a number, right? But a direct response marketing message that can hit somebody right between the eyes for multifamily is very powerful, and it's not being taken advantage of. And that's one of the things that I'm super excited about for 2019 and on, is really dialing that in.
Is there lists for those people?
Yeah, absolutely. There's lists that you can get. There's CoStar, there's List Source, there's Listability, there's data scientists, there's all kinds of boutique places, InfoUS. I mean, there's all kinds of places that you can get lists. You know, but you, even with the data, you still need to have the message. The data's there. You just need to have the message to have someone go, I need to call that person, right? And that's what's super exciting to me about multifamily, especially with direct response.
Matt, what did you want to go into? I know you texted me and said you want to go for an hour and a half.
No, I'm saying that we're at time now, but it's like not. We're not like at the end. Let's go into these questions because they actually bring up a lot of like good points, like talking points.
So we do like a question section of the podcast where we just ask you pretty much like entrepreneurial based mindset questions, kind of just to bring out some topics that usually don't come up during like the biographical part of the podcast.
Yeah, man.
What was your first business idea and what did you do with it?
So I had actually two. But the first one, I don't know if you can kind of count it. I used to sell glitter pencils when I was like, I think I was 7 or 8 years old, and I sold I made glitter pencils and I sold them for $1. And then the next business was 5 for $1 candy bars. And that was when I was like in 7th, 8th grade, or maybe, 7th grade, I think. I sell 5 for $1 candy bars. So that was like the entrepreneurial thing, man. I was always wheeling and dealing, and there was garbage pail kids, cards. And then later on I got involved with baseball cards, memorabilia cards. I still have over 100,000 of those, believe it or not. I still have Mickey Mouse cards, 3 Jordan rookie cards. I have unopened boxes of freaking Score and King Griffey Juniors of '89, and like I have all this stuff, man, that I just kept for so long. I used to go to card shows and trade and stuff. But yeah, I went through probably, I'm not kidding, like 40 different businesses. I was a domain broker at one time. I had a fax type or a VHS business that we used to work with attorneys for cases that they would have. They were charging like $75 for this VHS tape and everything. We could get it copied for $20. I did that business for like 6 months. I did Jewelway. I did all kinds of little MLM type things. I sold Kirby vacuum cleaners for almost 2.5 years. I became the number one youngest DPS in the company's history. I got a letter from Mr. Kirby himself, which was pretty funny. But actually, knocking on doors for selling Kirby's door to door, that was the best rejection training that I've ever had in my entire life.
Oh yeah, I bet.
It was awesome. It was so awesome, man. I mean, I still remember just like getting to a place where you just had to like rebuttal and all that. And then after a while, you become good at it because you've heard literally everything, every reason why someone's not going to let you in their house to clean a room of carpet. And then you just get good at it. And then I went and I did Ginsu knives. So I sold Ginsu knives. I got up to a place where I was selling 10,000 Ginsu knives a month off eBay. So I had a semi that actually came to my house. And in the beginning, I was just drop shipping. But later on, I started selling so many that I could actually get a semi to bring over Ginsu knives, store them in my garage, and selling Ginsu knives. And I was selling for 99 cents and then charging for the shipping. And I was just a better marketer than anybody else that was selling at the time there. I remember they were selling for like $10 a set. You know, I'm talking about the knives that cut through a can, right? Ginsu knives.
Yeah.
I always think Cutco, but yeah.
What's that?
I always think of Cutco knives, but yeah.
Cutco knives, yeah, similar to Cutco knives. And then after that was so much inventory, I had, this is hilarious. I had a house and I had roommates that were renting out my Lazy Boy recliner. I'm telling you, this is the absolute truth. They're renting out my Lazy Boy recliner. I think it was like $250 a month for my Lazy Boy recliner. I had every single room in my house rented out, and I had a waterbed. Believe it or not, I had a waterbed that had a sheet in the middle of the waterbed, so two people would actually have to share the waterbed.
Oh my god!
So it had a sheet on it, and I rented out my waterbed on each side of the house, and I had a lot of people working for me for beer and pizza, to do all this Ginsu knives. So we had people going in the morning to FedEx, in the afternoon to FedEx, and in the afternoon FedEx, and then towards the evening to FedEx, dropping off these massive, big huge boxes of Ginsu knives, because we were selling so many of them.
Where'd you store them all?
What's that? In my garage. In my garage, in my attic, in my garage. I wish I could show you a picture. It's so
I thought you were going to say
hustle. That's awesome.
I thought you were going to say I had so many knives in the house that I only had room for people to sleep on Lazy Boy.
No, they're like flat. You know, it's like a book. They're like even thinner than this, right? So I mean, there's like imagine two of them. Like that's even thinner than that. And then so man, it was like I like this business I was making money, but it was like so much inventory, and you had no quiet. I mean, just to have any time to yourself, I bought video games. I mean, this is the ultimate bachelor pad, guys. I bought stand-up video games in my kitchen and in my living room for everyone. So we had a pinball game, a stand-up like afterburner, airplane game, pinball game. One of the pinball games out on the porch, like the best ever bachelor pad that you could imagine. So it was a lot of fun. But it was just so much chaos, constant chaos, no time to think. But I loved it. It was a lot of fun. And then I just started to get to a place where it's like, well, actually a couple of roommates moved out. One guy found a girl and he moved out, and then people moved out. So I started thinking like, I need to find something that has a higher profit margin. So I found, remember when plasma TVs came out? TVs came out, and they were like $20,000 when they first came out. Do you remember that? They first came out. They're like $20,000 for a 50.
Is that the ones that are like 50 pounds or like 100 pounds?
They're right. Like
they're flat, but they burn into the.
Yeah, they have plasma gas. They have plasma gas. They don't even really. I don't even know if they even manufacture them anymore. Everything went to LCD. Yeah. But the plasma TVs, when they first came out, it was a big deal, very big deal. And I got in at the very beginning of plasma TVs. And so I started to figure out where I could buy these plasma TVs for, as a wholesaler, and drop ship them. And at the time, I mean, there was like 4 people on eBay selling plasma TVs. Literally, if you went on there now, I bet you there's 10,000 people that are selling TVs, plasma TVs. But at the time, there's 4 people that were selling these, and the marketing was horrible. I mean, it was absolutely the worst kind of marketing you could. I mean, there was nothing that was appealing to it at all. And so I was thinking, man, I bet those things have how many TVs would I have? How many Ginsu knives would I have to sell to make the same amount of profit that would do on TV? So I want to say I could buy a plasma TV for my price at like $14,000 or $16,000, and then they're selling for like $19,000 and $20,000. So what was that? 25-30% markup, something like that.
Yeah,
and I didn't have to take inventory of it, right? All I had to do was be a better marketer and present it the best way. So I got on eBay after I got set up and everything, and I'll never forget. I playing in a rock and roll band. It's a whole other story, but I was playing in a rock and roll band. And I put up my first auction for a plasma TV. And I remember like getting the ding on my phone that it sold, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, I can't believe this thing actually sold. It just really sold. And so I sold the first plasma TV, and I made like $4,000 on that one sale.
Wow.
And I was like, how many Ginsu knives do I have to sell to make $4,000? And it was stupid. It was just stupid. It just made no sense. So I shut down the Ginsu knife business. And then I started to get involved with plasma TVs, and I grew that business over 3.5, 4 years, and I sold it. I grew it to almost $3.5 to $4 million. So about $1 million a year, but I didn't start out at $1 million. And then I sold the business, and then from there, I started to really get more involved with real estate investing. The reason was most people that bought plasma TVs from me were affluent. And so where my competitive advantage was, whenever they would call in on eBay, it was so funny. I still remember. So they'd call in on eBay and they'd ask me all these questions, customer service questions. And I would be the one, I didn't outsource a single thing. At 2:00 in the morning, if that phone rang, I was picking up, right? And and they'd ask a question, how many pixels and this and this and this, and I'd go, oh, that's a great question. Let me check on that real quick. And I would literally go into Google and type in their question. And that's how I learned to be really good customer service at selling plasma TVs. And eventually I got in with the government. So I had government contracts because they would buy multiple plasma TVs. That's where our tax money goes, by the way. And they probably don't even open them, by the way. It's a whole other story. But they would buy a bunch of plasma TVs, and eventually after plasma TVs started dropping in price, my margin did too. So I had to get involved with digital projectors. And the government bought tons of digital projectors. And then when the digital projectors started dropping, I started getting involved with peripherals like Monster cable and mounts. And then I started to buy extended warranties. And so I was trying to make up the profit because all of the prices were dropping so quickly. And so I knew that when Sam's started to get plasma TVs, I knew that was the time I needed to really think about selling the company.
I'm still baffled that people paid $20,000 for a TV.
Bro, I sold one. I met a billionaire. His name's John Castanedis. He owns the Gristedes grocery stores in New York, or some of them. And he bought 20 plasma TVs at one time.
To $20,000 is a car.
Yeah, but they weren't $20,000 at that time. I think at that time he bought in there like 8.
Still, we just bought like two 70-inch TVs for the office for like $400 each. They're LED.
All right, so my question was, what was your first business idea?
Sorry, Matt.
I'm not sure how much time we have left, but let's go another 10 minutes. So this is going to be a speed round.
Sure.
If you can keep each answer to about 30 seconds, and we'll go through a bunch of questions, get some like quick snippets of advice from your such a diverse background. What habits helped make you successful?
What was that?
What habits helped make you successful?
Persistence and being an expert learner. So you may be smarter than me, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn everything I can. I'm going to be an expert learner. So I'm going to figure it out some way, somehow, and being persistent. So if you have those two things, that drive where you're just not willing to give up, and you're just going to learn what you need to accomplish whatever, then you will.
Do you have a morning routine? I
do. Yeah. So I get up in the morning. First thing I do, it's kind of funny, but I squeeze my pillow and I say, I love you. And I feel like I'm saying that to myself, but I also feel like God's saying it to me.
What does your wife say when you do that?
Yeah, well, my wife is my wife is sleeping typically. So I say I love you.
Like, who are you saying that to?
I get up at 6:07 a.m. I get up at 6:07 a.m. and go to the gym. First thing I do when I get up is I drink water. I drink usually about a 1 liter thing of water from the time I get up to actually being at the gym. On the drive, I'm always talking about being grateful and just really thinking about things I'm grateful for. So when I hit the gym parking lot, I'm there. I get a little bit of time to just get kind of centered about things I'm grateful for. I go to the gym at 7 a.m. I'm there. My trainer's there waiting on me. 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. I'll do exercise, and then from there I go into the sauna at least 3 times a week. If you Google the benefits of this is amazing. It cuts down on so many stress-related activities for your heart and all this stuff. But so I go to the sauna for about 15 minutes in the sauna, and then after that, I get out and I go. I have another drive to my house, which I have an office at my house that's separated by a portico, and then I'll just go ahead and get some learning time together. So I'll start listening to a book. I've listened to a book for at least the last 3.5. I can look at my Audible, but listen to a book for 3.5 to 4 years. 1 book a week. So I listen to a book a week, and that's massively important. So water, exercise, learn time, something to be grateful for. And by the time, that's like I'm 8:30, 8:45, man, I mean, I just feel so enriched that I can tackle the day. And I do my very, very best to start thinking about the hardest thing that I need to get done for the day, because that's called eating your frog, right? The Brian Tracy Eat Your Frog. So whatever the hardest thing is I need to get done that day, that's what I do my best to get very excited about. And I want to do that before noon. If I do it before noon, I have the most energy typically to do it. And that's pretty much it.
What living or dead person do you most admire other than family members?
Jesus. But you could say hypothetically he still lives spiritually. But I think that dead, I would say, that's a great question, man. Probably Napoleon Hill was someone that really has made a massive difference. Things I read about his life and how he approached life. So probably Napoleon Hill.
To what do you attribute your success?
I would say God first, because that gives me a foundation. And then second would be just not willing to give up. You have 2 choices in life. I feel like you can either fold or flex. You're always given that choice with any kind of situation that you're hit with, whether it's some big resistance or, something that's great and happy. You always can either fold or flex, and just not willing to give up, just perseverance, persistence, just getting through whatever it takes.
What was the worst piece of advice that you ever got?
The worst piece?
Yeah.
The worst piece of advice. It's not my fault. I think being a victim is one of the, you can fall prey to being a victim, and it destroys your life, man. You have to understand that it may not have been your fault, quote, directly, but it's your fault on how you responded to whatever happened. So yeah, man, take responsibility for responding to things that happen in your life.
What is unique about your business?
I would say our wholesaling business.
Yeah.
I say our wholesale business because we really ask how we can serve someone and help solve what they want at the time. So we ask them, hey, sounds like a great house. Tell me about your house. Sounds like a great house. Why do you want to sell it? Why do you need to sell? I need to help grandma. I need to move. Whatever, it's like, oh, okay. Do you have a way that you have another house you're already, going to move into? Do you have the money to move? I want to do everything I can to help satisfy that pain that They're looking at that challenge. I want to help them. I want to serve them to be able to achieve that thing.
If you had one piece of advice to somebody just starting out, what would it be?
One piece of advice. Do your best to separate whenever something happens that you don't agree with. Do your best to separate the thing from the person. And if you're able to do that, you don't take it as personal, right? And you're able to actually learn from the situation. What can I learn from this should be the first response, not why did this happen? This is horrible. Everything's going to, go bad. But like the first response is, what can I learn from this? And that's a much healthier way to have that perspective.
Do you have a favorite failure? Is there one that sets you up for future success?
A favorite failure?
Favorite failure.
A favorite failure. Wow.
Too many to choose from?
What's that?
Too many to choose from or not enough?
I look at failing as data entry, right? Like what I don't want to do, right? So probably my favorite failure is I own Yahoo.com, one letter from Yahoo. And I sold it for $10,000. I probably could have, and Yahoo owns it now, but I probably could have sold it for much, much more.
What year did you sell it?
I don't remember. Gosh. And whenever I was a domain broker. So had to have been in the either late 90s or early 2000s.
What do you do? Why do you do what you do? What gets you through the tough times?
Why do I do?
Yeah, what's your why?
Why do I do what I do? I do this because I feel like this is my way to plant a seed of inspiration and impact and encouragement in others and other people's lives. So just to be a light, there's a lot of darkness, man. I mean, there's a lot of people struggling. We all struggle, right? And so if I can some way provide some positivity, a way to impact someone's life, that gives me great, great joy to figure out a way I can serve someone the best.
Thanks, Cory. That was the last question.
Where can people find you?
Yeah, and go to Cory Boatright, Cory Boatright. That's the site. They can find the web. They can find our podcast on there, which is the Real Estate Investing Profits, which is what Matt asked about in the beginning. And for wholesaling or consulting or coaching is coryscoaching.com.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate you giving us your time.
Yeah, man.
I know it went a little bit longer than we thought.
It was a long time, but I enjoyed it, man.
Thank you.
A lot of great information, for sure.
Until next time, guys.
And that's it for another episode of the podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. One last thing before you head off, though. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us your thoughts on iTunes. It would really mean a lot and help us reach more people. You can also find us on Facebook at Profits Over Wages Podcast, as well as on Instagram and YouTube. Until next time.